I want to talk for a few minutes about grow-out brooders. Typically we keep ducklings, day-old ducklings inside for about a week or so. And then after a week or two, depending on our space availability or the type of ducklings, we move them out to outside brooders. Here behind me and over to my side we have some brooders that we built a couple of years ago. If you look over to my left here, we have some rabbit hut. We got some rabbit hutches over here, and then this is an old duck brooders somebody else built. This is an old rabbit hutch here that we're raising some golden eyes in. So you can modify old rabbit hutches to make duck brooders. So let's come over here for a minute. These brooders that we designed here, they're only about 4 foot across. That way we can reach across easily. If we need to catch birds, we can easily catch them. Unlike these other larger brooders here, we can just scoop right in and pull birds out. We have the area here where the ducklings go in to get warm. We usually keep the heat lamps on high heat. Just because they're outside and I like to have the high heat on them. We use these knobby mats these are actually made for the food industry. I get old ones that are ripped up, and my wife does too as well at work. And we use these for the bottoms, and the nice thing about these is the ducks sit on them, and if there's crap or anything on the mat, it doesn't directly contact their feathers. Also the water sheds off these things really easily. So there's minimal contact on the mats. So we got these are mortar tubs that you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot. We drill a hole in the center, put a drain in them, and then we make these ramps here. It's just a piece of plywood with hardware cloth. It's folded around the back and stapled. We tend to lose more ducklings than we should on these things because I just haven't come up with a good design for exiting on birds. So what we found works the best is we know that the ducklings are most often going to come out of this side of the pond because they're used to coming up into the heat area. So we'll put this ramp in and we'll put it nice and tight to the edge here, and we'll put a couple of bricks on it, and then we use these little plugs for the drains. And if you have something like mergansers or goldeneyes, you might want to put a rock over that just to protect them from popping the plug up. We also have this piped in here, although it's undone right now, so we can run water into the little pools, and then we also have a hose. Actually, this isn't the hose here, but we have a hose hookup somewhere here where we can hose out the brooders. And then if we slide over here, this is just I mentioned that you want to find the area that the birds are most likely to come out of the pond on. Well, we found that with these these pools positioned so the long end is facing their area where they go in to get warm and stuff, their little shelter area. It's difficult to have a decent ramp that works properly. So we ended up using a knobby mat on this and laying it down in the water so the birds can get in and out easy. I would prefer that this thing would have been turned so the narrow end of the pool would be facing the shelter that's on this end of the brooder. But this goes for any place where the birds exit frequently. I would recommend it be the narrow end facing wherever they exit. I'm going to slide this top on. This thing originally had a hinged top on it, I think. Another thing is, when I'm talking about these brooders, you need to make sure when you design them that they're easily accessible for ducklings. This particular brooder that I was just in is not easily accessible. I wouldn't recommend that. This one is kind of nice because you can lift it up and you can access cleaning and everything. problem is if you have something like wood ducks or whatever, and you're over here working on it, you know, they could easily jump out. And gold eyes could as well, but they're not going to do that. So then the other thing is, we can see we got a lot of ducklings in here, and I don't even know how many birds we can actually brood through these brooders, because we can push them out, a lot of them when we hatch out an ample amount, and when we're having a good season. In here we actually have a variety of species, lace and teal, and New Zealand scaup, and Indian spot bills, and I think that there's some European poachards in there. There's a little call duck in there, a little straggler call duck. So anyhow, as soon as they come out to these brooders, which again is, you know, probably 2-3 weeks, we move them right over to layer pellet. Probably ideally, a grower pellet would be a better option, because a grower pellet, for all intents and purposes, is the same thing as a layer pellet, except it has less calcium in it, and the ducklings definitely don't need the amount of calcium. So to recap, we start off inside, we brood for a week, possibly 2 weeks in there, and we'll bring them out here. They stay in these things for about a week, possibly 2 weeks, depending on how well the birds are growing. Another thing is, so from here, and we're going to go up to another area where we tend to keep them for a week or so. Some birds will stay longer up there, but also from time to time, depending again on the weather and how well the birds are doing, they just go right from here right out to the main pens, which I have a bunch of birds this year. The weather's been pretty good. Some of the ducklings have been growing really good, probably because we didn't hatch out a lot this year, and they just grew a lot better because they had a little bit more attention. So we've got several hundred birds, at least probably 150 birds outside that never went to the secondary outdoor growing. So we're up at the secondary growing pens, one of the secondary growing pens. One of the things that's different about the growing pens we were just in is those are up off the ground. They're fenced in with hardware cloth. Predators aren't going to get into those aviaries without some extreme difficulty. If you notice, this is a greenhouse structure here. We've got netting on it. We've actually got some 1x2 netting here because we're keeping some geese that had a tendency of sticking their heads through the netting. And we got tin on the bottom. And this is electrified. If you don't have it electrified, and if you don't have tin on the bottom or some other secure bottom, you're going to have predator problems. This particular aviary we double up as a wintering aviary. In the wintertime we have plastic on it. In the springtime we put the tarp on here to raise ducklings. Again, we raise a lot of ducklings in here. They only stay in here for a week or two, although that also varies depending on the species and just some other conditions. In fact, I've got a pair of Brazilian teal that have been in here for 3 months now. I just don't want to take out of here because I want them up here. The ground here gets a lot of dried up duck crap on it, and we'll take that and we'll spade it every so often, especially as the summer progresses. But this pond here, we change it probably every couple of days, again depending on the number of ducklings in here or the species of ducklings. Right now we got marble teal and white-faced tree ducks, Chinese spot bills, Brazilian shovelers, European poachards, green-winged teal, cinnamon teal in here. So these birds, most of them, I actually moved from the brooders, the secondary brooders, like yesterday. But I'm thinking that within the next couple of days, again, you know, it varies on when I put them outside, but I think that everything's going to be pushed outside in a couple of days. Up here we also keep one lamp on just to give them the easier transition to the cooler outdoors. One of the things I would have liked to probably have done and I just didn't is cover that far end so we don't have any water coming in here when it rains, because it'll tend to pool up down there, and then if you have If you have mud, you're going to end up with some bad feathers. And that's actually another reason why I like to move birds out of here as fast as I can, just to get them into a grass or a green aviary instead of a pen that potentially ruins their feathers. After we move them from the secondary growing pen, we move them down here. It's not a very big pen at all, but as you can see, it's well overgrown with weeds for the birds to hide in. I would guess that there's probably, in this pen right now with the ducklings, there's probably 200 ducklings in here, possibly even more. I don't know. I tend to overcrowd this, but with the vegetation in here, we can definitely put a lot of birds in here. I won't get an accurate count on anything in here because there's so much vegetation until probably end of August or so, beginning of September. Like I said, there's a couple of breeder birds in here, but then there's a lot of young birds in here.